Hello, everyone. Good evening. This happy Saturday. Welcome to you all. Welcome to Deepdale. Done a few. I mean, I'm racking up the number of video verdicts I've done from certain grounds now. I've done a few from here. Some of them have been successful. Some of them have not been. This one was, as you can see there, with Norwich being the 4-0 victors here on David Wagner's first championship game in charge of Norwich City. These are dangerous waters for correspondents and reporters. However much some people may think this job is painfully easy because we just comment and talk about stuff with no recriminations, I can assure you this is not really the case in this circumstance, however easy you may feel it is, because you could just go completely over the top. And in fairness, right, I've done my hot takes. They were quite funny, he says. I don't know if they actually were, but I tried to make them funny. As supporters, absolutely enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. Enjoy the optimism of where Norwich are. Enjoy the blossoming reconnection for however long it lasts. Because these are good moments. These are good moments. However bad or good or whatever happens in future, you have to embrace the good stuff. Because if you can't do that, you will never enjoy anything. And certainly in terms of following a football club. And so from my perspective, as a reporter, journalist, correspondent, pain in the backside, whatever you want to call me, I have to be a bit more objective. Obviously, I love the club, have a big history of the club, I get paid to do various things, etc. I have a slightly different line to tread. And this is not me sort of teeing up the fact that I'm going to absolutely lambast all of the issues with a 4-0 win at Preston, because I'm really not. But you have to be, I have to be objective, and also, my feet on the ground, which actually does remind me. I drove today to Preston in my new invention, not really invention, but my new driving slippers. That was about as comfortable as Norwich's victory today, so it was good. Norwich were 3-0 up here. I actually thought Preston started with a lot of energy in the first 3-4 minutes. But the spaces that Preston gave up to Norwich in the first half were obviously a major issue. That said, Norwich's first 2 goals, it was 3.5 at half time, their first 2 goals came from sort of sheer loading of numbers in the penalty box. Brilliant composed finish from Teemu Pukki for the first goal. A really wonderful finish from Kieran Dowell for the second. And then Teemu broke slightly later in, I think it was just before the half-hour mark in the first half, broke through, managed to tee the ball. Kieran Dowell was free, up in support, and rolled the ball into an empty net, and that actually triggered a double substitution from Preston boss Ryan Lowe. He had changed to a back 4, I think, first time they played that in it'll be like forever, pretty much, and lots of questions of him whether the shape was the issue. He said no. He said it was the player's application and that it was unacceptable, and the performance and all that sort of stuff in the first half. I don't know if I agree. I thought it looked like they were a bit of a mess in the first half, and that offered perfect storm really, because the way Ryan Lowe spoke as well in there, I don't know. I mean, it's very hard obviously to try and prepare for a team that haven't played under their new manager in the league. And he said that he tried to watch back some games, but which games did he try and watch back? Because if he tried to watch back Huddersfield games under Wagner, I mean, that's irrelevant really. And even at Schalke and the Young Boys, the framework was slightly different. Although at both those clubs, David Wagner did play with the front 2, so I wasn't really surprised that he did that today. I thought the shape was quite clear. I thought it was more of a 4-2-2-2 on Sunday against Blackburn. I thought today it was probably a 4-4-1-1 with Sargent behind Pukki, but obviously that does sort of morph into a 4-2-3-1 as well. But there's sort of nuances and where players sort of drop in deep and preferred positions in that formation. And there was a good amount of fluidity, and it looked cohesive. Norwich have always had good quality. The side should never be outside the top 6 in this championship. I think I've said that all season, because of the quality they've got. And then you added enthusiasm and just a greater work rate. They really pressed well and worked hard, and you can see that influence and that hunting of the ball. And they won the ball high up, and they created all sorts of chances, which basically negated the fact that on occasion they were a bit open on the break, maybe some last-ditch tackles, but they actually put in those tackles and took those bookings when needed. Maybe got away with one or two, but those defensive issues were more than compensated for by the way Norwich attacked and what they created in the other half. I mean, I think they had 6-7 shots on target. Maybe it felt like they could have scored, almost double what they did in the end. And so lots of positivity there. And as you would expect them to have that energy and enthusiasm in what they're doing. I would expect that to continue for a few games. I'd like to think they'll pick up a fair few more points as well going forwards at this stage. And then we can see what happens from there. But at the moment, just take care of the current games and the current run. And yeah, all positive, really. Some fantastic performances. What struck me about the combinations between, and no one will probably want to hear this, but what struck me about the combinations between Teemu, Pukki and Kieran Dowell is that I remember being at Old Trafford when Norwich were pretty unlucky not to come away with a positive result. And Teemu and Kieran combined pretty well that day as well. They've had it in them. It just got completely lost. I mean, that was under Dean Smith. So probably just one of the examples of either a structure being put in place that no one really got a hold of, or it not working, or something just not being taken advantage of. Kieran and Teemu have combined like that before, and they've definitely had that potential before. Now, obviously, the players have to take some responsibility for that themselves, but it was good to see that today, and I wouldn't say it's the first time I've seen it or thought that it could happen. So that was good, I thought. Kenny McLean was outstanding, all over the pitch, did all sorts of things. Norwich scored their 4th goal, which basically started in that far corner over there. It was scored over there in front of the supporters with a Kenny McLean back heel, from what I can remember. I might have to look back at it again, but Teemu Pukki went up the other end, got his own brace by prodding the ball in, and had a really good turn to make that space for him as well. Josh Sargent, I thought, worked really hard on his return. He started the game, as they just withdrawn behind Pukki. He was a bit unlucky not to score, maybe a couple of opportunities he didn't take, but I thought he worked really hard in the game. Now Hernandez, I mean, it's one of those where you could just go through them all, really. I thought Dimian Nulis just carried the ball brilliantly. I thought he was excellent. And then there was a big call at the back. So some people thought the Kieran Dowell call was big. I mean, no, I didn't, not really. Let's see what Kieran can do, because I think he can do good things. But the big call probably was keeping Tim Krul in goal. I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting Angus Gunn to start. I thought this would be his opportunity to show David Wagner what he could do after Tim got the opportunity in the cup game. But it appears over the course of the week, David has had a chat with both goalkeepers and decided that he wants Tim to be his number one at this moment. And then I mean, we don't know. And Wagner didn't want to talk about the conversations. He wants to keep them in-house, but he does think he's got 2 very good goalkeepers. So he was saying the right things for them both to be involved. But it does look like Tim will be number one. He almost got caught out with one poor pass in the first half, made a couple of really good saves in the second. But there's nothing really between those two. I mean, I see lots of people going, "Oh, Tim starting is a joke," or "Angus starting, he should be starting." Oh, that's a joke. Or I can't do that. There really isn't much between them. I think it's really tight call. I don't think it's ever been a big issue. The issue has almost been having 2 goalkeepers. But then I've always felt Tim, when he has been number one, does need to be put under pressure. So it's a real hard balancing act to keep the pressure on, but also have a genuine competition. But then not maybe a detrimental argument. So yeah, really fascinating. But it does appear that Tim will be number one for the foreseeable. So it's up to him, of course, to deliver those performances. But obviously that does, as an external viewer, all season, does feel pretty harsh on Angus, because I don't really think he was doing anything wrong in terms of Norwich's shortfalls. So that's where that is. I don't think there's much to note about the substitutions. And yeah, and the full-time scenes were quite fun, really. You had David Wagner literally making sure the players didn't walk away. They all had to go up to the supporters and applaud them. And then he sort of shuffled them all so they got actually really close, and he took a step back himself. So he does really want that connection between the players and supporters, almost 1,000 of them, I think, here today. And it's kind of fun watching someone visibly, in person, make a connection. And obviously, ultimately, what really helps with that, a 4-0 win. Certainly playing with the energy and aggression that they're playing. Because it's really interesting, because actually, you can see the high press and the aggression and the passion that David Wagner wants them to play with. But then naturally, those players do have good technical ability, certainly for this level, so they can play nice football almost by default. So it's kind of a nice mix at the moment. I tell you what it is. It's one game. It's one league game. And I will be obviously very interested in how this looks like in 4, 5, 6 games time, when you start to see where the momentum takes you, because the momentum can take you as high as you can go. It can also dissipate with the same voice. You never know. And I think the other thing is, I can watch that performance today, and there were so many amazing things and brilliant things, but my goodness me, Preston didn't half play into Norwich's hands in a lot of ways. And as much as I am fairly, certainly in terms of comparing with the Premier League, the Championship is absolutely nowhere near it in terms of tactical, a tactical clash, and how teams adjust and take on the problems you're posing. Complete chalk and cheese. But even at Championship level, if there are obvious strengths that you need to nullify, then they will nullify them. I was thinking about this the other day. People talk about identity in football, and they go, this team has no identity. This team has a really strong identity. What does it mean? Well, I think it's really straightforward. I think a team's identity is basically its strengths. A team's identity is what it does well, always. And you can understand that, having watched Norwich for most of this season, I would struggle to have told you what they did well. They didn't really do anything well. What is nice is that you can now already see that if I look at this team, if they keep playing like that, if that is sort of the benchmark and they play it, then you can see that there will be clear things that they do well. And by doing things well, you create your own identity. So, good start. Just a start. But I'm delighted that the fans got to enjoy it. I hope that we see it again at Coventry. And then I really hope we see something nice and positive at Carrow Road for whatever that next game is. Because that would be nice. It feels like something Norwich fans have not had since COVID. Obviously because of the previous title success. So let's see how we get on. But there we are. I think I've covered everything off. No update on Todd Cantwell, but I still envisage him moving at some point, I have to say. I think that was it. And maybe Jordan Hugo will move on as well. David Wagner's asked about both. We will have to see. A few window things to play out. But right now, I think David will be pretty happy with the team he's got at his disposal. Obviously, because they've just won 4-0. So there we go. Right, onwards and upwards. Thank you so much for your time. The Athletic, obviously, for stuff to read. On the Ball podcast will be back on Monday for things to watch and listen to. There is plenty of bits on. There's a nice Josh Sargent piece on The Athletic that I wrote with my colleague in the US, Jeff Reuter. So give that a read. You know what's going to happen. I am trying to sort out some new headphones. You'll be delighted to know. So there's that. Obviously, all the stuff from, there's the piece I wrote from David Wagner and Stuart Webber's press conference on last Monday. So have a read of that. And onwards we go. Cheerio, goodbye. I'd already got rid of that. Ta-ta. See you anon at Coventry next week. How exciting. Bye.